Before starting the story, write in the comments section which country you belong to. The early morning mist clung to the rolling hills around Camelot, hiding the grandeur of the castle in a soft, silvery veil. Inside, the halls were quiet, the usual bustle of servants and knights yet to stir. King Arthur sat in his private chamber, staring at a small, delicate tapestry, a gift from the Lady Guinevere. He traced the embroidered lines with his fingers, a faint smile touching his lips. It was simple, yet it held something far more precious than gold or jewels. It carried her thought, her presence, even when she was away. Guinevere moved like sunlight through the castle corridors, her laughter a gentle ripple that brightened the dull stone walls. She carried a basket of herbs from the gardens, and the scent of lavender and rosemary followed her like a shadow. Though she was admired by all, her heart carried a quiet longing, an invisible tether that pulled her thoughts constantly toward Arthur. She knew the kingdom relied on his strength, his fairness, yet she often wondered if he ever thought of her, not as a queen, but as a person, with hopes and fears and dreams that mirrored her own. Their first meeting had been orchestrated by fate rather than design. A young king, still learning the weight of a crown heavier than iron, had found in her a reflection of gentleness he could not command from the sword or the law. And she, in turn, had seen beneath the armor of duty and ceremony a man capable of kindness, of laughter, and, unexpectedly, of understanding. It was in those stolen moments, when the world paused for a breath, that their connection had quietly blossomed. Arthur's mind wandered to the upcoming council. There would be talks of alliances, of threats beyond the kingdom's walls. Yet, even in the gravity of his duties, thoughts of Guinevere lingered. He remembered the way her eyes had held his gaze the last time they spoke in the gardens, steady, warm, full of questions she did not yet dare to voice aloud. It was a look that could stir both hope and fear, for it reminded him of what he desired but could never fully claim. Meanwhile, Guinevere wandered the castle's eastern tower near the balcony overlooking the misty hills. She paused at the stone railing, allowing the soft wind to play with her hair. Her heart felt heavy, full of unspoken words. She wished for courage, the kind that could bridge the chasm between admiration and confession, and yet she feared what honesty might cost, not just for herself, but for the stability of the kingdom, for the man whose life seemed so entwined with the fate of every soul in Camelot. Love, she thought, was not always a gentle companion. It demanded sacrifice, patience, and sometimes silent longing. That evening, the sun cast its golden glow across the castle courtyard as Arthur found himself wandering near the gardens. He was alone, as was often the case when duties called him elsewhere during the day. And there she was, Guinevere, kneeling among the blooms, her fingers brushing petals with the reverence of someone who understood beauty beyond its surface. He watched her quietly, careful not to startle her. She looked up, sensing his presence even before he spoke, and for a fleeting moment the entire world narrowed to the space between them. "Good evening, my lady," Arthur said softly, his voice carrying a warmth that the cold stone walls could not absorb. Guinevere stood, curtsying with a grace that seemed to echo centuries of tradition. "Your Majesty," she replied, though her tone held a hint of personal affection, a quiet rebellion against the formality that always seemed to bind them. They spoke of the garden, of herbs, of the simple joys that often went unnoticed in the shadow of a kingdom's needs. Yet beneath the ordinary conversation, something deeper stirred, a silent acknowledgement of hearts that were drawn together, though uncertain of the path ahead.
As night descended and the first stars appeared above Camelot, both knew that their story had only just begun. It was a tale of longing, delicate and fragile, like the first frost on a spring morning, beautiful, yet fleeting.
Weeks passed, and Camelot hummed with the usual rhythm of life. Knights trained in the yard, merchants brought news from distant lands, and the court buzzed with rumors and whispers. Amid it all, the bond between Arthur and Guinevere grew quietly, almost unnoticed by others. Their encounters were fleeting, a shared glance in the hall, a word exchanged near the fountain, but each one was a lifeline in the sea of their responsibilities. Guinevere felt the tension of unspoken words more acutely with each day. She longed to tell him, to reveal the depth of her feelings, yet fear held her back. What would the court think? What if Arthur did not feel the same? And what if his duty as king weighed down with the responsibilities that left little room for personal desire? She often wandered alone in the castle's northern tower, staring at the horizon, imagining a life where she could speak freely, where hearts were not shackled by titles and expectation. Arthur, too, struggled. He admired her wit, her intelligence, and the light she brought into a life filled with burdens. Yet he was a king first, a man second. Every choice was measured, every action calculated to preserve the kingdom's fragile balance. He longed to draw closer to Guinevere, to let her see the man beneath the crown, but the fear of scandal, of distraction, haunted him. He knew that even a hint of impropriety could ripple across Camelot, undermining the trust his knights and subjects placed in him. One evening, during a council meeting, the discussion turned to a neighboring kingdom's threat. Arthur's mind wandered, caught between duty and thought of Guinevere. She entered the hall to present the council with a message from a distant ally. As their eyes met, a silent understanding passed between them. In that instant, the kingdom, the weight of crowns and crowns to be, seemed to fade. For a brief moment, they were simply two souls seeking solace in one another's presence. Yet shadows were inevitable. Rumors began to surface, whispers of loyalty tested, of hearts drawn toward forbidden attachments. Guinevere's closest confidant warned her gently, "Be careful, my lady. The king's heart may not be free, and even the purest love can bring ruin when tangled with duty." Guinevere's heart ached, but she remained steadfast. She could not deny the truth she carried within her, the gentle pull she felt toward Arthur. She began leaving small notes in the garden, poems and reflections that expressed feelings she dared not voice aloud. Each one was carefully hidden, a secret thread connecting her heart to his. Arthur discovered the first note by chance, tucked beneath a stone near the fountain. He read it under the cover of night, his eyes lingering on the words that seemed to echo his own unspoken longing. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine a future not dictated by duty alone, where moments of joy and tenderness were possible. And yet the fear remained, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of losing not only his queen, but the respect of his kingdom. In the quiet of the night, Arthur often walked the castle corridors, tracing the walls as if seeking guidance in the stones themselves. He wondered whether love was a luxury that kings could afford, or a danger that must always be resisted. And every time he thought of Guinevere, he realized the answer was both. Love was a risk, a test of courage and heart, and the two of them were caught in its delicate web.
Spring came to Camelot with a flourish of blossoms and sunlight. The gardens bloomed in riotous color, and the air was filled with the scent of roses, jasmine, and lilacs. It was during this season that Arthur and Guinevere found themselves spending more time together. their moments of connection no longer confined to passing glances or secret notes. They walked the gardens, shared tea in the sun-dappled courtyards, and spoke of things beyond the crown, childhood memories, distant lands, the dreams they had once harbored before responsibility claimed them. There was a gentle tenderness in their interactions. Arthur would often pause mid-sentence to watch Guinevere's hands brush against the flowers, the way her eyes lit up when she discovered a rare bloom, or the soft laugh that escaped her when a bird landed nearby. She, in turn, found solace in the way he listened, the patience and understanding in his gaze that made her feel seen, truly seen, in a way no one else could offer. Despite the beauty of their moments, both were aware of the fragile balance they maintained. The kingdom demanded vigilance, and even the smallest misstep could ignite rumors or worse. Guinevere's heart ached with longing, and Arthur's chest tightened with the weight of choices he had yet to make. They were drawn together like magnets, yet both feared the force might break something precious if fully unleashed. One afternoon, as rain pattered gently against the castle windows, they found themselves alone in the library. The scent of old parchment and candle wax filled the air. Guinevere had been reading aloud from a book of ancient tales, her voice soft and musical. Arthur listened, captivated not just by the story, but by her, by the way her presence could calm the storm inside him. When the last words fell into silence, neither spoke for a long moment. The tension was palpable, a thread of anticipation that both thrilled and frightened them. Finally, Arthur spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Guinevere, I do not know what the future holds, yet I cannot ignore the truth of my heart. You have become my solace, my guide, and my hope." Guinevere's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her heart pounding. She stepped closer, yet a respectful distance remained, honoring the unspoken rules that bound them. "And you, my lord, you are the strength that steadies my own heart. I have longed to say this, yet feared the consequences." They stood together in silence, a world apart yet intimately close, aware that the road ahead was uncertain, fraught with responsibility and expectation, and yet for the first time they allowed themselves to hope, not recklessly, but cautiously, tenderly, with hearts that recognize a kindred spirit in the other. Summer settled over Camelot, bringing long days of sunlight and golden evenings. The kingdom thrived under Arthur's rule, but for him, the greatest joy lay in the quiet moments he shared with Guinevere. Yet the whispers of court and the weight of duty never fully vanished, reminding them that love, though beautiful, was always tempered by responsibility. A festival was held in honor of the harvest. Knights and nobles gathered, music and laughter filling the castle grounds. Guinevere, in a gown of soft blue, moved through the crowd with grace, yet her eyes sought Arthur above all. He found her near the fountain, her smile lighting the evening like a beacon. They spoke little, for words were unnecessary. Their hands brushed, a fleeting contact that carried the depth of emotions neither dared to fully express aloud. In that touch, there was trust, hope, and the quiet acknowledgement that whatever the future might hold, this connection would endure. As the night deepened and the stars emerged, they stood together on the castle balcony. The world below was alive with celebration, yet up here, time seemed suspended. Arthur took Guinevere's hand gently, bowing his head in a silent promise. She squeezed his hand in return, a gesture that spoke volumes of love, loyalty, and unwavering faith in one another. Though the kingdom demanded much of them, they discovered that love could exist within the boundaries of duty. It was not reckless passion, but a steady flame, resilient against the storms of fate. They had learned that longing could be endured, that hearts could be patient, and that the deepest connections were often forged in the quiet, unspoken moments of understanding. And so, as Camelot slept beneath a blanket of stars, Arthur and Guinevere embraced a love both fragile and enduring, knowing that the story of their hearts was theirs alone to cherish, a tale of longing, courage, and devotion, bound not by desire alone, but by the strength of soul and spirit.